Good afternoon, Tom Ginn and Mark Gassert. Elevate your profits. I know, Mark, you're out here pushing our broadcast live here, so
A little bit, just a
just a
tad.
little bit. Well, that's one of the things we learn in the Grow Live Academy. You get your message out as many audiences as you can, right? So, but tonight again, we don't have a guest, but we're going to be talking today about something I ran across this weekend.
Right.
And I watched it. I've been in the sales and business arena since 1983, and I've been to hundreds of speeches and workshops, training, or whatever, and all those bring value, and there's something you can pull away from them. But in this one speech, Mark, if you agree with me or not, I think he covered all the key points in 45, 50 minutes.
Yes, the speech you're talking about, I won't steal your thunder, but it was the CBT, Automotive Conference and Expo, February 9 through 11, 2016 at the Georgia World Congress Center, and he was the keynote speaker for that particular conference and exposition. So Nick Saban is the man, I'm sure I don't know how much they paid him for that one, but there's no doubt in my mind what this man will be doing after he's done coaching. And he talked about the team concept and being around a team. I don't think he'll ever be without a team, even if it's outside the sporting arena. I really don't.
Yeah, he is quite an individual. It's really interesting to see his philosophies and how he plays those out. And when you see other successful people, they're saying the same thing, but I think he articulated it clear and more simply than anything I've heard. And today I even used some of his principles in my G-Force gratitude program. And I've been working out this book. Art Williams, another football coach, and I was going through this book and evaluating what Saban was saying. It sounds like the only thing they do is they use different vocabulary saying the same thing. It's amazing. And I'm gonna put this banner up here. We were in a banner back and forth a little bit, but we can spend a couple 3 hours on this. I mean, you can do a whole training course just off of what he taught, what he covered. But we just want to make sure you turn your notifications on. Share this with your colleagues, business associates. There might, awareness is the only way that we recognize there might be a place that we need to make a change. It's only through awareness. But he started out his speech with this comment: there are a lot of books on how to become successful and very few on how to stay successful. And because that's the tricky part. And, when you listen to his speech, you can understand why he's able to stay consistently successful at the highest level. And the principles he shared are principles that you can embrace in every aspect of your life, your personal life, your business life. These are universal principles he was talking about. Many times people get hung up on only business principles and they wonder why their personal life sucks, right? So, but it was I ran across it over the weekend. I do more. I don't have a TV in my home, so I'm either reading, watching something motivational, something like that. We got a few people jumping in.
Oh yeah, Jay Skinner. That's a good
Jay.
quote. Staying power is huge too. Jay, and look who else is here. The Bammeister, Eric.
Yeah, good seeing you guys. And before we forget, have a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
It's going to be here before we know it. So, but
I want a pizza for Christmas. That's what I want.
A pizza, yeah. Love pizza. And because we're going to be talking about just highlighting some of the points that he talked about. For those that want to get access to the Ultimate Nick Saban Leadership Speech, there's the URL, and it'll be scrolling the entire time, give you an opportunity to write that down and check it out. No matter what level or experience you have, I guarantee you this will give you maybe a clearer perspective, a new perspective, or a refresher of some things that you may not be doing in your winning success. So, Mark, what was your first impression about what the overall talk? What you
That
come away with?
what you just mentioned there, he simplified, and everybody teases Saban about they all hear the process, the process, the process. Well, one thing that I took away from it is he said, stop comparing and ask yourself, what do I need to do? Stop worrying about the end result so much. And I think we get carried away. Like he said, when we got ready to play for the national championship, he said, I told my players, I want you to think about for the next, 60 minutes who you're going to play against on the opposite side of the ball and what do you have to do to properly prepare yourself. And I think if you do those things day in and day out, then you don't have to worry about all these crazy things. And I know I'm going to like freak people out when I say this: quotas, numbers, dollars and cents. I'm not saying you don't need that in business, but I think sometimes we get like engrossed with this stuff to the nth degree. Like, how many calls did you make? How many of this did you do? And that's not always the answer. And that's what he broke down for me in the most third grade level. I mean, what he talked about is, you know, stop that comparing thing, and treat people like people and look for like-minded people. I think too, Tom, is what he was talking about. You don't need, if a high performer is a cancer, I'm not going to hang around him. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do it. But if he's got a great attitude, a great perspective, and that's what he was talking about. Don't settle for status quo, because average people don't like performers, but there are performers out there that are good people. Obviously, they're, or they wouldn't be where they're at. He's a prime time example. I could hang around him all day, because
Yeah,
he emulates what comes out of the mouth. And, that's pure and simple. He's not perfect, but, when you watch him on the sideline, he's definitely knows what's going on out there.
yeah. He outlined so many points, but they broke it down into three major things. The vision. This is something myself playing football. The vision of a coach is to set what we're shooting for this season or for whatever the vision, the outcome before you obtain it. That's an emotional thing, and then you have to have a process. And he talked about the processes, offense, defense, all these processes, and everybody had a job to do. He talked about don't worry about what other person's job is. Know your job. Know your
Mm.
job. Who and it'll cover something. And then the discipline and what that really is. I'm gonna like to have some conversation. I brought some bullet points up there, but he broke that down, and underneath each one of those are different things he talked about that take it deeper to get a better understanding. Because we hear goals. Most people in business talk about goals. I tell you what, goals by themselves don't work. Every team has a goal to win their championship, but do they have a vision, a purpose, and a why behind it, what that is on an
Right.
individual basis? And great coaches bring that out. So these are the processes that he dove deeper in. I'm going to put this one up. I think this is one you wanted to copy.
Oh, yeah. Temporary failure is nothing more than an opportunity to grow and succeed. And he talked about that mindset. It gives you the opportunity. What I say is to go to the next level. So a lot of times people beat themselves up in business if they lose a deal, a sale, they don't get this, they don't get that. But I don't see it as a failure. It's temporary. Like if you strike out in baseball, I've often heard this: fail your way to success. There's different approaches in the box, but you learn from that, So when you get your second opportunity, third, fourth, you're going to know what to do that next time around. And he mentioned, this is the one I love, when he first got to Alabama, they were knocking it out of the park, so to speak. He had a struggling football team, and who'd they lose to? Louisiana Lafayette, Monroe. I mean, they lost to an unknown, and he took a lot of grief that first year, but he was trying to implement what you were talking about, Tom, the vision. And he tried to get the guys get off that winning the game. What's the vision? Why are we doing this? And what are you doing to improve? I think sometimes that's kind of a tough thing, for people to. They just look at goal, 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 goal.
Yeah.
Money,
And
money, 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 money. And I'm not saying you don't need it. You don't, but I think if you put that at the forefront, it's going to mess with your head. Like, I got to get a hit. I got to do this. You don't have to do anything, man. Just, implement what you've been working on. And that's easier said than done. It's all about that mindset.
yeah, and that puts you what I would call in a zone. You hear it all the time in athletics. I mean, you can do the same thing in business. We know when we're in a zone, we're on a roll. That fastball coming down is still going 100 miles an hour, but when you're in a zone, it only looks like 30 miles an hour, right? Right.
Right.
And even being an umpire, when you're in a zone, you can see that ball turning, right? You know if it's going to be a curve ball or a drop ball,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
right. So
Yep.
it's
Helps
just
having a good catcher, though, too. I'm
what's
teasing.
that?
It helps having a good catcher back there.
They save your life, I'm sure.
Yeah. They sure do.
um,
We got some more
so
comments here, Tom.
oh yeah, we got what we got here.
Jeff, and we need to acknowledge these people. Jeff says you'll find gems in all walks of life. Tom and Mark are the conduit to access the greatest. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for being here this evening. And our one and only, not the only, but our Canadian friend here, our brother, Robert Brooker, he's back. Yes, if you can't hit the ball, throw the bat at him.
Love it.
Well, believe it or not, I have seen the bat fly out of their hands, on a hot day at the pitcher or even back my way. So, yeah, that's always exciting.
There he's Jeff is writing something here, so I can't see it because it's in front.
It says, if you don't have everyone understand what the eventual goal is collectively, you'll never get the team to arrive with the same results. That's true.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So let's see. Did we cover that? No.
No, he said, Robert said, that's a good word for it. Exciting. Yeah. Hey, one of the things, Tom, you mentioned that he said, when he said, I provide leadership, he said to develop relationships. He stressed that word relationships on his team to help people take advantage of the opportunities. He is the facilitator of this, and then to make sure they have the discipline to do it or accomplish it. That's how he views himself as a coach, what he shares with people. And I'll say it again, provide leadership to develop relationships to help people take advantage of opportunities and make sure they have the discipline to do it. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is look out there and guess who's in the Final Four once again, Alabama.
Yeah. And what you're talking about there, Mark, is something, in leadership. He talked about this in depth today. It is about respect, and it's a two-way street.
Yes.
And trust. And relationship, you're not going to ask your players to do things that you had never done or whatever. You're there to encourage them to be their best. And if you walk out of integrity off the field or on the field, he talked about that. I won't get into that story. That was part of, you got, even though how much you want to give up to prove a point. Sometimes you have to step back. So he teaches some great life lessons as a coach. And I think that's where his whole goal and mission was not just to win national champion.
No.
Those kids get an education. They're going to be prepared for life. They're going to be prepared for success. and just football and be more successful in football, whether they win a national champion. He's
Right.
focusing on them. He talked about building a team it's everybody's important.
Right.
And that's that relationship, and you see them, you hear them, you're coaching them more than just on the X's and the O's and fundamentals of the game. He gets in these young men's hearts and minds that this is just a training ground for life.
Right.
That's what I took from it. I did
Right.
paraphrase
No,
that.
it's absolutely correct. Couple more people hopping on here. Sandy Archer, thank you for joining us. And everybody's saying hi to Sandy.
Everybody's howdy, howdy. Merry
Yep.
Christmas, everybody.
Yes.
Coming up.
And you brought up another great point that when he talks about, he said, I got him. He said, I get some guys that say, I want to get drafted, I want to graduate from college and go to the NFL. And he said, when I hear that, I got them. And then I can go back if they're not conducting themselves accordingly. Is what you're doing right now going to help you get to where you want to get to? Well, I forget the name of the player, but he mentioned it in his speech. You'll hear it. The guy evidently was walking down Frat Row, and some of the guys were making comments. Obviously, there were people drinking, and he was getting ready to do something. And Nick said, well, at Alabama, we don't do this, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I had to rethink the equation because the player came back to him and said, Coach, where I come from, you don't do things like that. This is how we roll and we defend ourselves. And then he said, okay, I got to rethink this. You're probably going to go first round, be a $3 million,
A 30 million.
30, excuse me, did I say three? Sorry, $30 million. So if you conduct yourself this way, do you realize that you'll probably, instead of go first round, you'll go third, and you're going to probably drop down to maybe like 27 mil instead of the 30 mil, and see what it's going to cost you. Is it worth it? And then that's when the player said, okay, coach, I got it. You'll never have any problems
Problems
from
for
me
me.
again. But that was neat the way he kind of came back and said, okay, I had to rethink it because I was throwing everything at him from my perspective and not looking at it from his. And
Yeah.
that's tough for all of us sometime, whether you call a customer, it's not about you, it's about them. It's about, their outcomes. Or you're coaching somebody, what you do, you coach teachers. It's not about them. Unfortunately, my wife is an educator. By the way, she went to Alabama, so that's a good thing that came out of there, right? But I hear it all the time from her: test scores, test scores, test scores. Excuse me for saying this. I think they got it ass backwards because they berate the teacher with this test score thing, and I think they got it wrong. It's just my personal opinion. And
Yeah.
these kids are under a lot of stress and strain, to hit a number.
Yeah, going back to what we were saying about the kid that was going to stand up
Yeah.
and Saban talked about this. The organization, the team, your business has a vision, but you got to keep in mind your players have their vision within the vision, and they want an outcome from themselves. And that's what when that's why as a leader, if you can find out what values you have and what's in it for you and why they're going to pay this price with us, you got them. Because when they get off mark, you just hold them accountable to their own vision and their own goals. And then collectively, each
Right.
those 55 players on that team or 100 or whatever they got on the team, they all have individual visions and goals collectively working for the big vision. And they work individually but collectively. Powerful thing that he shared in is, if you're in leadership, find out what your people's vision for themselves are, and then be a servant to them. He talked about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's all about that service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. The one thing you mentioned about, which I'm going to throw in here a little caveat. He said, there can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. Woody Hayes made that comment. That's one of his quotes that he passed on to Nick when he was at Ohio State. They were getting ready to play Michigan. Woody wasn't the coach then, but he was still around, and I guess they took him along on the trip because Ohio State was playing Michigan back then, and they wound up beating a better Michigan team. But that one stuck with me. There can be no great victories in life without tremendous adversity. And what Woody was talking about, the South Pacific, and what's your Pearl Harbor, and get over that fear of failure. Or, excuse me, I'll say it. What's your COVID-19? Oops. But
Oops.
like that seems to be the thing holding people back, or Pearl Harbor, or whatever it is. Get over it and face the fear. And
Yeah.
just move on.
And what you're speaking of that, he's talking about vision. And Art Williams, one of my first business mentors in life, he says, "What's your crusade? What are you willing to die for? What are you willing to put on the line to accomplish?" And he said, if you don't have a crusade, vision, purpose, or why, these are more normal terms that we hear all the time, we end up living a life of mediocrity,
right,
and regrets. And
right.
So coaches I love coaches, man. Loving coaches.
They're a trip.
Yeah.
There's
So,
some good comments down here. Robert said it's tough when the one selling you isn't listening. That's true. Jeff comes back with, how can I make you better? It will eventually come back to me. That makes you both better in the long run.
yeah.
And he mentioned down here, burn and learn. Yep.
Yeah. All these points that they're bringing up are things he alludes to or even dives deeper in it with great clarity. So I'm going to sort of go up here with the next banner we have. This is what I think you were talking about, is no matter he's had to kick people off the team that are the
Yes.
most talented athletes
Yes.
on the team, but their attitude wasn't right. They weren't buying into vision, and they weren't willing to show up the way the expectations he set. And see you later. In leadership,
Right.
you have to make those whole. I think you and I were talking about that before we got on. Highly talented, highly productive
Right.
people, because they were a cancer in the organization. There was never any
Right.
good vibration. That eventually will poison
Right.
an organization, no matter how much they're producing.
And those that serve in the armed forces, EMTs, police, firemen, I could go through the whole gamut. If you have a person like that on a team, that's a scary thought, because somebody can get hurt for keeps. So, yeah, that's what he was talking about there. I thought that was really impressive when he mentioned about that. If you're not going to, I guess the word is comply. I mean, but really, if you look at his players, they're quality individuals.
Yeah. They had a recent situation here at UW of Wisconsin. The early part, they were expected to be a top 5 team, and they had some cancer in the early part of the season. I mean, some high quality what are they, 5-star high school athletes. They didn't want to comply with the vision of the team and the outline like Saban talked about, and the coach let them all go. 5 key people. That sort of created the cancer was happening. And then when that cancer then they started performing up until the last game. But you could see the difference. I was watching them. I said, there's something wrong there with the chemistry.
Right.
I follow them quite a bit. And so those things are so important. And you can relate to the sports to business. Look in your organizations. If you got a job, you see it.
Now I'm thinking, he said, Robert goes, now I'm thinking of fine cheddar for some reason, since you mentioned Wisconsin, and that's cool.
Robert. I love you, Robert. But let's sort of hit this next point. To stop judging.
Right. He said, and I think that's important, because I've seen people that maybe they're not the best and they're just starting out, like even doing this right now, streaming, or when we all started. Remember when you first started doing this, you were hesitant, you weren't sure. And, but you're doing it with the right intention. So that's where he's coming from. Stop judging, and where a person's at today. And
Yeah.
that doesn't determine where they're going to be in the future. And a lot of these coaches can see that within a person, and that's why they get on them. Maybe they can only give you, excuse me, this much, and you know, but the coach says, I think you can give me that much. And that's what they want to get. And I guess I learned that early in life. My dad said, when someone gets on you about something, that means they care about you. Don't take it like they're doing it to you. They're doing it for you. If they take time to explain how you screwed up and why you can't do that anymore, that's a good thing. But if they just let you go, that's not a good thing. You can
Yeah.
see that in coaches. You know, it can happen. I mean,
Yeah. Don't be the worst. Don't be your own judge, because we will beat ourselves up mercifully.
right,
So
right,
here's the next point that I liked what he talked about. He talked about building that culture, integrity and all that type of thing.
right.
Integrity goes not, I learned this from golf as well. Integrity is what you do when other people aren't looking,
Aren't watching. Yeah,
aren't watching. But success, something you should be. He mentioned this. I thought this was really interesting. Success is something you should be doing, but you don't. You should be picking up the phone, doing 15 more reps, doing 15 more wind sprints, part of the itinerary, things to do to get you stronger and all that. You should, but you don't. He talked about human nature. And then he covered this, some things you should do, but you don't, just the opposite.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Like
ask
he
yourself,
said, you want to go on a diet. I thought that was great when he said, "Oh, I want to go on a diet and lose weight." And he said, "But you're still eating pie and ice cream." And I forget the name of the company. It doesn't matter. But he said a lot of these programs have it all mapped out for you, what you need to be doing day in and day out. But you're still back to eating pie and ice cream. And guess what? You're not going to lose any weight. Or you may compromise and say, "Oh, I'll have a slab of that apple pie with ice cream and a Diet Coke." That's not going to work either. But
hi Joe, how you doing, bud? Joe's putting there, he said, don't do wind sprints on the phone.
oh yes,
And then Robert's got a good comment here as well, I think here.
and Joe's kidding around, but Joe's very successful in his own right, what he's doing out there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
So let's see. Well, another thing that I made a note.
he said, as a former friend once did, I don't do a crap job painting your ex-wife's car and then ask for my opinion of that job. Okay. Robert, you're a trip, Robert. You always bring something different.
And Nick said
There you
this:
go.
do it when you don't feel like it. How many times do we say it? And he related this. We all do this. This is human nature. I think part of the thing being a successful leader is understanding human nature, how we think, how we operate, our basic core needs. We all have them. And he just draws on that. And I think that's really important for those that want to succeed at higher levels. Study human nature, become a student, get coaching, get to see a different perspective. There's a comment, and you're giggling there.
Yeah, well, Robert said that it does work. Apple pie, ice cream, and Diet Coke. So I've never tried that diet. Maybe I ought to try it. I mean,
I guess if that's all you ate and you only had
yeah,
small
maybe
doses
it
of it.
might. It might.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, but do it when you don't feel like it. That's part of how he sets this culture up, and that's human nature. He goes through it. Mark, you go through it. Oh, I don't feel like doing that today. You do it anyway because the vision and the goal is more important than you not feeling like doing it. You
Yeah,
know,
you got to get
that's
over.
that self accountability. So important.
Yeah,
People don't realize that.
yeah. That the little guilt voice hops in there if I don't do it, even if I don't feel like doing it. I feel guilty. That's that's that conscience. I call it Mr. Jiminy. I'm dating myself. Cricket. Remember the little Jiminy when he'd sit on the shoulder? Disney.
Yeah. Yeah. He said this, you have a right to fail. It's your
Right.
decision what you're willing to do, to do. So you have a personal right to fail, but you have no right to put your failures on other people. You
Right.
have no right. I hear this all the time that people are taking their own perspective and their own opinion and putting it on other people to squash their dreams, their passion, their whatever.
Right.
We don't have any right to do that. Zero.
Hey,
And
yeah.
I totally agree with that.
And Jeff kind of reiterated this when he said, "You have a right to take your time on this planet seriously.
Lose,
Snooze,
you
you
lose.
lose." Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So he had some really good nuggets. And then when you see it
Right.
in context, it's amazing. Anybody that's out there, no matter what sort of leadership or training you've
Right.
had, this will give you a perspective that will, and I believe would tie it totally in to what we're doing here. So what do we got here? Let's see, what was the last one we did?
Uh, Jeff. Jeff was our last comment. Oh,
But
team. Oh, yeah.
he really talked about this in depth a little bit. We've heard this concept, right, Mark? There's no I
Right.
in team.
Right. But
But
there's
how
an
do
I
we do
in
it?
win. Yeah. I mean, and
He focused on this. There's no I in team. I'm not bigger than the rest of the team. I'm the star. I should get all the attention. You throw the ball to me, hand the
right.
ball off to me, all that stuff, right? There's too many players you see that out there, right? But win has an I in it. And the I is the trigger that you are doing your very best. I am applying and discipline. And that's where it makes that whole, and everybody takes that I, and that's a winning thing. But it's about what you need to do
Right.
to get better at the role that you play. He's clear on identifying your role as a coach is this, your role as the water boy is this, your role as a quarterback is this, right? And he was very
Right.
clear. Everybody
Right.
has a role, and then and when you have win, it's the only place you apply the I. That's where you take personal ownership and the discipline and the focus and the drive, and it's not about you, but it's you're
Hmm.
taking your talent and put it into work, become the best. The way he position that, I'm probably
Right.
not doing it any service
Yeah.
whatsoever, but it was a powerful thing.
Thing that stuck out, he says, "What do I have to do to get the results?" He puts it comes back to you. And
Yeah, that's winning.
yeah,
That's a winning mentality.
or you never know what the other person's thinking. He's talking about don't underestimate, like when you say you don't feel like doing something, you know, because when you're competing against in business, the competition, you don't know what they're thinking. So don't take things for granted. Jeff has another good point here. I'll just read it because I can see it. God gives us each special talents. When we acknowledge the gift and share it, we're honoring God. You honor the Lord and he blesses you more. That is so true.
Yeah, you're right on, Jeff. It's so principled. A lot of these principles, I believe everything operates by law. These are universal principles, and they work.
Right.
They
Right.
will work if you let them work. See, which one are we doing here? Banners. Let's talk about this one.
Oh yeah. The poor me, poor pitiful me thing. Yeah, he really hit on that one too. Yeah, he has no time nor patience for that one.
Yeah, and we hear it all the time. To win or to accomplish an objective, a vision, or a goal, there's sacrifice have to be paid
Right.
collectively. And I always like using it as a sacrifice. A lot of people think I got to give something up. Well, you may only have to do something, give it up for a short period of time or maybe long term. But if the outcome you see is a higher good, the team, your vision, your goal, sacrifice are no longer painful. And you're willing to see I think he said it beautifully today, and that we watch with that replay. What did he say about the book, the road less traveled?
Traveled, yeah.
What was the first sentence?
I think it was "Life is not fair" is the first quote, if I'm not mistaken. And a priest gave him that book. Yeah, the road less traveled, and he said that priest is crazy. I mean, I didn't. That's a negative statement. Life is not fair, and but he said it's a very good book. It's well written.
Yeah,
And
and
it's about all about positivity and positive influence. And that's the other thing he stresses about being around positive people, how that creates that environment, just like we're all on here, but it's important to feed off of that so you don't have that cancer.
Yeah. And he was talking about the obstacles, him being a coach. He's got
Right.
other universities, and he listed off a bunch of people that have been his coaching staff or major
Right.
coaches at his competitors, right?
Right.
He says that's obstacles. We know they're going to be out. There are going to be injuries. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be life experiences that get in people's way. And do we go to a place of self-pity, poor me? You can't.
Right.
Life is going to throw you hurdles. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal? Are you going to respond to them or react? Most people react.
Right.
And then they wonder why they get, what did he say about decisions? When you
Right.
make poor decisions, I'll read it. I think I got it here. It's a great comment. But we talked about this early. Leadership is earned. Respect is earned. But you give your players respect as well.
Yeah.
You have that going on. Now you have trust. And if you're in business and you don't have the trust of your people, now we were talking about it, they're messing with my compensation program. They're doing this, and they're not trusting because there's no respect. And it's probably a two-way street.
Sure.
Usually when we don't have respect for somebody else, we're just reflecting what we see in ourselves, many cases, right? So look in the mirror. So what are you doing to earn respect?
Right.
And
Right.
it's you lose your respect, you lose trust. It's hard to get trust back.
Right.
Even in personal relationships, business relationships. So respect. He holds that in high revere as a key leadership thing.
Let's see. We've got Ted Legal. If you react with positivity, adopt and move on. Everybody's saying hello. Here's Robert. It came from my own personal war on the negative inner voice. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Hey, good. Thanks for being here, Ted. I hope you're doing well. And Nick talked about in there is you got to be adaptable.
Right.
You got to be on the fly sometimes. But that's the only way you can do that is you building that confidence to make those changes midstream because you've been doing the work in that area. Let's see what else we have here. Respect, trust. Oh, I love this one. How do you pray? To be blessed or be a blessing? This is what he's talking about: leadership and servitude and getting people to be unity and all those things. If we're praying that, hey, give me blessings,
right?
Everybody else, or am I praying that I'm a blessing, that I am going to give more of myself to serve the outcome of the team?
Right.
That service mentality. That
remember when he said, "You're here, my feet are on the ground. We're all here today." When he was given that, he was talking about that and a lot of those people were salespeople, business owners of probably dealerships and everything else under the sun that were at that meeting. But he said, "Hey, we're here now. My feet are on the ground." So, he used the word gratitude more than once in his speech.
Mark, that's an area that goes back to that whole relationship side, is being grateful
Right.
for the people that are in your life, and let them know how much you appreciate them. Let them know how much you see their growth. If you're creating the environment, you nurture them so they can see. Most people go to this is not our nature. I loved what he
Right.
said, this right here. It's not our nature to be great. If we understand human nature, our nature is for survival.
Right.
If we want to become great, we put ourselves at risk in our internal self mechanism. You have to fight through that. I mean,
Right.
folks, I tell you what, he's hitting some home runs here of understanding human nature. Is when you
And
say, I'm going to become great, you're going contrary to what you've been programmed biologically for survival. Anything outside of a survival mode,
right.
you're going to resist it. That's where fear comes in, doubt, and all those things. These things I coach on is that when you have a clear vision, purpose, and why, fear no longer is the obstacle. It's no longer the obstacle. It never is. Because you were willing to do those things that those that aren't excelling at the higher level are willing to do.
Right.
And so I loved when he said that, because this is also, he talked about when you're winning. What did he say about winning? You won 4 national champions,
Yeah.
5 national champions. What is the nature that people go to?
Yeah. Complacency. I don't need to, we're going to go for our 5th national championship,
We got it
That's why
wired.
that's why he told his team, you will not talk about the next game, which was the national championship game. He demanded that they think about what they need to do to perform, but not the result. And I know that's probably contrary to the way some people are wired, because they want the result. And that's what I was really amazed when he said that if you're following um, the process and your why, it's all in place with what we're trying to do here, and you're doing the right things. He's probably the type of guy that wouldn't cut somebody off his team, but you could be an all-star, and if you're a cancer,
Gone.
you're out of here. But
Yeah.
he'll take that average guy that's given him everything he's got, and he's like, no, this guy is doing what we're asking him to do. He may not be the best football player, and that's hard for some people to understand, that concept.
It sort of leads to this when we talk about discipline. And I always like to use this, that most people think they're disciplined, they're not disciplined. I mean,
Right.
put myself in the same category. I'm more disciplined probably 95% of the people I encounter in life. And that takes work. It takes a lot of work to get
Right.
up every morning, do the same thing, do the things you don't want to do them anyway, those type of things. But he made this comment. I didn't put it up on the slide here. Undisciplined people do dumb things.
Right.
Disciplined people do smart things. Now equate that in a game. The discipline, they're going to make, like a defensive end, maybe a charge in the end.
Right.
He's going to do a dumb thing because he wasn't disciplined to hold his space, that he made a decision that was dumb, which he already knew was dumb. He was coached not to do that. So he does dumb things. He didn't have the discipline here.
Right.
And then the disciplined person do smart things. They play within that realm. You can take that in business and sales. I'm glad as an athlete, this stuff all makes sense to me. I had
Yeah.
some great football coaches when I was growing up. So that's sort of been sort of my core motivator in life. What else do you have, Mark, that you want to?
Well, just like, I'll just go back to this. This is the one that really sticks out for me. Everything he was talking about, you owe yourself complete accountability to self. the organization and like he was talking about, and in this case in business, your customers or coworkers or and that's a tough. He talked about accountability. I always call it the like accountability mirror. You look in there. Do you really like what you see? And if you're really upfront with yourself, I mean, I know when I give it everything I got, and I'm sure you're the same way. And when you don't, and you don't like yourself when you look in that mirror. It's like, hey, you're not doing enough, or you're not doing the right things. And he talked about that as well. We want to like kind of shortcut it, and there's no shortcut.
Yeah.
And everything he's done, that's why he wins. And hey, Patrick Tinney is saying greetings from. Look where another Canadian has joined us.
Eh? Is that Canadian? Eh?
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping on, everybody. And and he mentioned this towards the latter part, building leadership is going back to this comment here.
Yeah, that was the thing when he talked. Yeah, when he said, we're glad to be here," and he pointed, I'm here on this stage. My feet are here, and yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And he talked about one of his players would always say that while you were stretching. He said, "Glad to be here, coach."
Yeah.
And that just kind of resonated with him. That
Yeah. And it goes back to that respect and trust, being grateful for who you are, the talent you have, and all that. And leadership is just not the X's and O's or sales scripts and processes. And those processes are just part of the preparation to win, right?
Right.
When but because I understand that this is what I've been studying for quite a couple of years, is the power of the gratitude and leaving people in a better place.
Right.
Because when you recognize people, this is human nature, understanding. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and people need to know that you care. And Saban, I could just see it in his body language, a tonal voice, his everything. He really
Right.
cares about his people.
Sure. He wouldn't win if he didn't.
No,
And
not
the way that team performs this past weekend, we're talking about teams, was the infamous Army Navy game, although Army didn't win. I wanted them to. But what's neat about those individuals, if you've ever been to a game, and you talk about college football, professional football, pageantry, rivalry. There's no bigger rivalry than that game, and it is amazing to watch when they march in, the Corps cadets or the midshipmen, and they march onto the field. It just starts resonating with you. What those people are getting ready to do within a year or two or three that they're going to be serving, and it makes you feel good that these people have volunteered. They're going to be servants, and they didn't have to do this. And then when you watch the game, the both sides elevate the team to perform. And when I was at a certain game in Philadelphia, they recovered a fumble, a block punt. I couldn't even hear myself think because that noise erupted. It went up into the heavens, and you're like, "Oh my goodness!" I've never experienced anything like that, even a professional game. It just like, wow, these guys, and the hitting that takes place, but then the respect at the end of the game, how they end it. The loser has to go first and sing their alma mater. The winner goes second, but it's all done in respect, and because then it's all over, after the game's over. But because those guys know this is it for me. I'm never going to play again. Most of them.
Well, Mark, I know we got hard stops coming up here.
Yeah,
We just want to make
we
sure.
do.
I just want to thank everybody that came on. We do have an announcement for next week. We do have a guest next week coming in, Dr. Amy Novotny. She's got a great story of
Right.
how she moved from a traditional role as a physical therapist into her own practice. And I tell you what, my background is a photographer. She's one of the best nature photographers that probably right underneath Ansel Adams. Seriously, the work she does is amazing. So, and that's her passion and hobby, but I think she should turn it into a business. She's that good.
Well, everybody needs an
anyway,
outlet.
next week's guest is just the story of transition. You know, we're all out there, and you know, Mark, we talked about this offline. In what's going on in the business environment, there's going to be more mergers and more downsizing than ever before coming up after the first of the year.
Right.
What are you preparing yourself to deal with that? Are you going to be poor me, or are you going to start taking action and getting prepared? You know, that what I call the plan B, your disaster plan. You know, seriously, we need to have those. What are your, you know, just like in the football game, there is the flea flicker or the bomb. They have a disaster plan or play, and they're going to throw it, right? They're going to do it.
Right.
It's designed. It's not just happen. And sometimes it works out and some doesn't. But what is your, you know, I think Saban would be a great coach to learn from. Take this and put it in your archives of self-development.
Yeah, it's definitely worth listening to. And to think that, like I said, that was February 9 through 11, 2016. I can only imagine what if he still keynotes. I know he does. What he's doing now, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I can't wait when he writes a book here soon. I'm sure that's going to be forthcoming.
Doesn't he have some books now?
Oh, he does. Yeah. But I'd rather get one when he's out, you know.
The reflection back, the compilation of life he's created for himself. So, Mark,
sure
thanks a lot.
That. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Had a great day, you know, doing my thing, and I am above ground, and I am very grateful for that. You know, as we all know, there's people that aren't with us anymore, and this is that time of year. Since it is Christmas, I just want to say thank you to everybody that joined us this evening, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yes.
You know,
have a Merry Christmas, safe and prosperous and healthy New Year. But we'll be, you know, that Christmas, I think we'll have our interview next week, and then that following week is the New Year's week. And then we'll be back up and going. We've got another number of great guests coming in. We're just firming up. So turn on your notifications.
Right.
Reach out to Mark or myself. We'd love to have you on as a guest.
Right. If you want to come on board this or, you know, feel free. Yeah. Love to have you.
Yeah. So, well, with that all said, Mark, you got to go do some cha-cha tonight?
Yeah. No, well, we're going to learn East Coast. We're starting from square block 1. So yeah.
Okay.
So tonight is East Coast. I can't wait. So this is all going to be new to me. So it's cool.
Yeah. Mark, we're going to have to get a live.
I will do that. We had a Christmas party, and I will just share something real quick. We were doing like West Coast swing, and this lady said, "Have you ever done this before?" And I'm like, "Well, no. You're just telling me what to do." She goes, "Man, you're doing pretty good for your first time out here." And you know, it's kind of what Nick Saban says, man. You just got to go out there sometimes and just do it, you know, and not worry about what people are going to think or say, or you know.
Exactly. Well, we're signing out, and everybody have a Merry Christmas, safe New Year, prosperous New Year, and healthy New Year. We'll see you guys on the turn.
All right, guys.